Greetings, comrades and friends on the African continent and throughout the globe. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. My name is Mbali Ngwenda, a young activist in South Africa with Pan-Africanism Today. I'd like to welcome you to this webinar where we are going to touch on an important topic that is very relevant for progressive and revolutionary organizations on the continent, that being youth in politics today. This is also in light of celebrating the great communist internationalist Che Guevara, born today on the 14th of June, 1928. We must unpack the question of youth in politics as we remember the lessons and contributions of Che Guevara to Africa's national liberation struggle. Revolutionary organizations and movements on the continent need to fuel their energies towards organizational work that understands not only the material needs of young people, but also the characteristics specific to them. This is central to our political objectives of organizing and mobilizing the working class as a whole. Let's remember that Africa is the youngest continent on the planet with a median age of 19, and this is projected not to change for the next century to come. Put more plainly, 60% of Africa's population is under the age of 25, and this percentage is only projected to increase. Creating space for young and vibrant leaders from grassroots organizations from all regions of the continent to come together, that is precisely the political character and political mandate of revolutionary Pan-Africanism. It is the principle of internationalism that must be an active tool for working class organizations, as the correlation of forces against global capitalism and imperialism are uneven. It is precisely capitalism and imperialism, comrade. That is the problem. This is the challenge that we are faced with. Also, not just to speak about youth as a distinct group, when 22 of the wealthiest men have more wealth than all the women on the African continent combined, we must discuss young people as a group that is fundamentally linked to all issues on the African continent, be it gender-based violence, human trafficking, the environmental crisis, or chronic unemployment. Capitalism is a system that looks to make sure that young people remain apolitical. As Lenin had well put, the conditions of capitalist exploitation, the modern wage slave, are so crushed by want and poverty that they cannot be bothered with democracy, cannot be bothered with politics. In the ordinary peaceful course of events, the majority of the population is barred from participation in public and political life. The current political and economic system cannot guarantee a decent or dignified life for the working class majority. Capitalism is in a state of decline. It only points towards the inevitability of socialism as an alternative. Half of the continent's 54 countries have recorded a deterioration in education between 2013 and 2017, meaning that over half of Africa's population has experienced worsening education. Contradictions are getting worse by the quarter, comrade. Youth are rooted in the periphery of economic activity and significance. It is precisely this factor that makes young people vulnerable to populist groups, demagogues, right-wing blocs, and extremist groups that recruit young activists. These groups use poverty as political capital. This is one of the greatest tragedies we see on our continent. We know that young people have cited this point in Cabo Delgado, Mozambique, where unemployed and economically marginalized youth have been recruited into religious extremist groups in the country, currently enduring a civil war that has displaced more than 1.2 million women and children. We have truly seen that what is not occupied by the political left will be occupied by the political right. Comrades, young leaders, advanced cadres, revolutionary activists, we must be clear about the political action that must inform our programs within our organizations and movements. Drawing from the lessons of the past, there is no better time than now to unify and strengthen the struggles of the masses, with the youth being 1 billion out of 1.4 billion on the African continent, the core demographic to organize and mobilize. Comrades, there is a child born every 0.63 seconds on average. This is quicker than the average of one death every 2.30 seconds. The infant mortality rate has decreased by 2.75% since 2022. Is this because Africans have better access to quality healthcare, or are there other reasons behind an increased population in the midst of devastation in the standard of living? What are the strategies that young Africans have found themselves using to resist poverty and strive for some kind of dignity? The chronic contradictions of unemployment, inequality, poverty, lack of access to quality decolonized education, quality healthcare, are critical issues that young leaders must answer within contemporary society. Comrades, we are caught between the past and the future every day. How do young cadres on the continent learn from the experiences of seasoned revolutionaries and have the creativity to define what the future must look like in the next 30 to 50 years from now? Comrades, in opening this topic, I want you to help me welcome Comrade Busiku Nancy Mpongo from the Socialist Party in Zambia and Ashlyn Ajiambo of the Communist Party of Kenya. Comrades, welcome. Thank you very much for making time to be with us today. Comrades, without wasting too much time, I'd like to hand over to Comrade Nancy.
Comrade.
Thank you, comrades. Thank you. I'd like to then hand over to yourself, Comrade Nancy, in just unpacking for us how do left organizations, how do socialist organizations approach the question of young people, the participation of young people in politics? I'd like you, without wasting too much time, Comrade, to unpack this question for us.
Thank you so much, Comrade Mbali, for the introduction. I'll reintroduce myself. My name is Nancy Busiku Mpongo, and I'm a member of the Socialist Party of Zambia, as well as Party Secretariat Chairperson. The question today, or the topic of discussion today, is how is the socialist approach to promoting youth participation in politics, or the electoral aspect of young youths? I will speak to the example of the Socialist Party back here in Zambia, in the way that we have approached youth participation in politics. First and foremost, we have a deliberate policy, or rather a policy which is in our party manifesto, as well as our party constitution, which speaks about active participation of every young comrade that is a member of a political party, or a member of our political party, or our youth league back here. And it has brought us to the attention to see that here in Zambia, youths are misunderstood to being people who are there to cause havoc, or rather cause violence, but it is different with the political party. For it is the first time that Zambia is having a left-wing political party that is participating in elections. I'll also speak to the previous general elections that we had in 2021. One of the youth candidates that was picked by the Socialist Party and contested in the elections, though I lost, it was a very good opportunity, because the Socialist Party put it out there to say that they are there to spearhead and put women as well as the youths in the forefront to participate in the electoral system back here in Zambia, because youth participation in the Zambian government, or the Zambian aspect of life, is lenient, or rather limited. So the Socialist Party has dedicated itself to making sure that it pushes forward the youth agenda, in the sense that we have the Youth League, where all party members who are under the age of 35 now and below are able to join, participate in the programs such as art, poetry, and culture, sports, and other different youth-related activities. And we also are promoting the youth, in the sense that we had by-elections recently, and you would check to say all the candidates that participated in the local government seats are below the age of 35, some are 24, some are 25, and we have about 6 of them that won the elections, which actually shows that we are a leftist party for the youth and a political party that is there to spearhead the youth agenda also. And we've also taken keen interest in making sure that whenever we're having meetings that have to do with policy making in the party, or rather decision making in the party, or the youth league members are involved with full representation, or the chairperson representing them during these meetings. And we've also taken interest in seeing that the youths in our political party are having key leadership positions, in the sense that they will be there to represent the youth members, the youth league that are out there in the country, as well as the youths that are within the political party also. Thank you very much, Comrade.
Thank you very much, Comrade Nancy. Thank you very much for mentioning some of these important points to say that young people must be in leadership positions, especially the point where you've mentioned that young people are pushed within local government to actually contest and actually stand for some of these positions, which I think is something very unprecedented. I think there's also an important point where you mentioned that even the view of young people being destructive is also being changed, to say that now we need to change how young people are viewed within politics. Thank you so much, Comrade Nancy, for that input. But not to take too much time, I'd like to shift gears to Comrade Ashlyn. Comrade, please take us through youth in working class organizations and youth having the challenges that youth have within your region in terms of this question of young people in working class organizations.
Revolutionary greetings, comrades. Once again, my name is Ajiambo Ashlyn, a member of the Communist Party of Kenya, currently serving as the National Treasurer of the Young Communist League Kenya, that is YCLKE, which is the militant youth wing of the party that basically draws its life politically from the party. And it's also the recruitment machinery of the party that helps organize the Kenyan masses among the working class. So before I venture into the question that has been posed, I'd like to say that in Kenya, the youth agenda has increasingly dominated the political scene, and this is especially during the campaign and election period, since the youth continue to bear the heaviest burdens of the systemic crisis of this capitalist system. And this is not just limited to the electioneering period, but you'll get even after the national bourgeoisie elections, the youth equation is still one of the dominant and most heated topics that we have in the country, because it has a lot to do with the nature of how the Kenyan politics are played. And you'll get to understand that the youth have been conditioned that election must only adhere to the doctrine of tyranny of numbers, while being used as conduits for ethnic political violence, handouts, as well as their mere election statistics to determine this election results, or rather to tilt election polls to these political elites we have in the country. So basically, with this background, the so-called democratization of African continent through this elective politics, strengthening of democratic institutions, constitutionalism, and rule of law is actually becoming a menace in the country, because there is this assumption that only democracy will bring about stability and good governance in the African continent. And looking at our politics, or how the African elective politics are done, these bourgeoisie national elections, bereft of ideological struggle, have only turned the youth into, mere objects of basically rubber stamping successive repressive regimes in these countries. And it's so disheartening that majority of the youth look at the elections as the alpha and omega of liberating them from the harsh economic and, social problems that they are facing. Talk of the widespread poverty, the growing unemployment, lack of access to quality education, lack of access to, health facilities, environmental degradation, and even food insecurity, and the growing shanties that we have in Kenya. So basically, so has to organize the youth among the working class. We have to actually analyze some of the challenges or some of the conditions in this working class. The first one is that you'll get that there is a lot of prejudices against the Marxism ideology. So you'll get that when the Communist Party of Kenya wants to bring about political and ideological education among the youths in Kenya, the first question is, what are they getting from it? Or how much will they be paid to, to learn about politics? So that is it. And also there is this, I'll call it prejudice, that Marxism ideology is divisive and it's violent. We are associated with war and such like the things, because when we talk about the class struggle, people term it as, people who wage wars, people who are full of conflict, people who enhance the instability, and people who bring about, the uproar of ethnic clashes and such like things. But basically we are saying as the Communist Party of Kenya that Marxism is the only science that has revealed how exploitative and oppressive the system is. And even from the works of our great revolutionaries, Angel talks of communism as the doctrine for the prerequisite of the emancipation of the proletariat, meaning that communism, the communist ideology, provides the theory regarding how the working class can actually liberate themselves. Joseph Stalin terms it as, Marxism is the science of the laws governing not only society, but nature as a whole. It's the science of the revolution of the oppressed and exploited masses, the science of the victory of socialism in all these countries, meaning there is also the aspect of internationalism. So the actualization of, a classless society would happen in isolation, but it's, we have to bring about the unity of all the left, of the progressive organization, in as much as we have diverging kind of struggles. But I think we have a center point of the center point of our strategy is overthrowing imperialism and capitalism. So basically, it's a unified kind of struggle. So apart from the prejudices against Marxism ideology, we are also struggling with ideological and organizational unity, because even as we undergo, political and ideological nourishment, we still hold within us the prejudices of the whole society. And even the working class has, it's heterogeneous, so it cannot be looked as, a monolithic or homogeneous group, but we come from different strata within our party. We have comrades who are from the petty bourgeoisie class. We have comrades who are from the bourgeoisie class. We have comrades from the poor working backgrounds, from the peasantry, and our conditions are not the same. So it's another issue that we look at. Another thing also is, looking at how the party structures also its programs in relation to organizing the working class, and considering the fact that there is a lot of fragmentation of the working class currently, because the middle class doesn't feel the pinch of how barbaric the system has become. Capitalism has failed to meet the needs of humanity, but even with the rise of prices of commodities in Kenya, the middle class is not rallying about it. There is not that upsurge or that anger among the middle class. They are okay. Look at the Kenyan Workers Organization code. It is still dormant. It doesn't talk about how expensive life has become in Kenya. Look at the organized labor with the Workers' Party and peasant organization. There is so much fragmentation of the working class. So, back to the question, that is, how then does the Communist Party of Kenya organize the working class? My first point is the party has reinforced coordinated study circles, which enhance political and ideological education, whereby the Young Communist League is tasked to advance this education among the working people. Could be in urban neighborhoods, rural places, and basically what we do is to sensitize, to organize, and to mobilize people into understanding what really communism is. Another way is through art and music. So you'll get that it's hard to actually educate people through political education, but quite easy to bring about popular education. And we can only do this popular education if we use things like music, theater, drama. So you get that we have spaces within informal settlements and even young people under the CPK theater. And also in the Young Communist League, we have, dance and music crews who bring about music that, identifies with the struggle of the masses. So basically, their lyrics have to bring out how the system functions. And this is how we are able to organize the working class. Another thing that we use is public interest litigation, or what they term here as judicial activism, whereby we pick an issue that affects the people. Like recently, we've had like the penetration of GMOs into the country. So the Communist Party of Kenya, takes this to court, and through, popular consensus, the court is able to rule in favor of, the people. Even in the recent past, the government has been quickly privatizing some of the public assets. So the CPK came in to challenge the Nairobi Metropolitan Services on renovations that were happening in one of the public parks known as the Uhuru Park. So this is also a way that we've been able to, organize the working class. Another thing is, existing among the masses, like the peasant and workers union. We tend to be part of their programs, part of their activities, and even when they bring on table some of the affirmative actions to improve, their works within these spaces, we are able to listen to their criticisms and opinions, so as also to be able to organize them. Because if we are commanderist, they won't listen, or we won't be able to work with them, but we will isolate ourselves from their struggle. So these are a few ways that the Young Communist League, in conjunction with the Communist Party of Kenya, has been able to organize the working class. Thank you so much, comrade.
Thank you so much, Comrade Ashlyn. Thank you so much for that. You've touched on such important issues, such as the prejudices towards Marxism, associating Marxism with instability and war. Whereas us who are within, the ideology would understand that we are completely opposed to war, because we understand that the impact fundamentally lies on the shoulders of the proletariat, the working class and peasantry. You've mentioned such an important point around the fact that the left is struggling with ideological and organizational unity. And this is a constant struggle that we have to wage to make sure that the working class is united, but also understanding that the nature of the working class as being heterogeneous, as you've said, and what does this mean? And this can only be done through education, as you've said. And I really appreciate how you've articulated this, comrade, in terms of the middle class not understanding some of the pinches that we feel, using arts and culture, to educate, as opposed to some of the ideas of the ruling class, being so much permeated in the minds of young people, using arts and culture, music, theater, to reach into the minds of young people, and also judicial activism, which is something that I can say is the first time I have heard of. But thank you so much, Comrade Ashlyn, for that input. Comrades, I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to then shift again to Comrade Nancy. Comrade Nancy, please touch a bit on the question of women in leadership, young women in leadership. What are some of the challenges that have come forward within Zambia, within your organization, within your region? Please, could you touch on that for us, comrade?
Thank you so much, Comrade Mbali, and thank you so much, Comrade Ashlyn, as well. I will speak a bit about what it is and how it is like for women participation back here in Zambia in general, in the outside politics, not within my party first. I'll first start with the issue of trying to form an identity which does not exist, where women are just for identity's sake and not the actual players of the game, in the sense that they'll get women in the set of where leadership is involved, or for example, where elections are involved, or our current system right now, we have a woman vice president, and she's just there for posture. I must make mention, because to me, I don't feel well represented. She's an old lady, of course. No, it's okay for her to be there, but I don't feel well represented as a woman or as a lady or as a young lady. These politicians that are here in Zambia are not taking keen interest in involving women to participate in key leadership roles. And it is only with the Socialist Party that now we have a lot of women joining in political parties, not only as women who are going to sing in a choir or cook for these men that are going to campaign, but these women have been acknowledged to be the representative of their fellow women, of the community, and the nation at large. I'll speak of a very good example of our previous general elections. It is the first time in Africa, as a continent, as well as Zambia, to see a political party spearheading and putting in the forefront to say that they will have 50+1 participation of women in politics. And these are different positions, from local government to upper positions that we have back here in our electoral system as Zambians. And we did indeed, as a Socialist Party, reach out to the women, and we had a lot of women that participated in the general elections with full support from the party, starting from A to Z. Of course, maybe we had failed here and there, but we really promoted the women participation. Up to date, we're still promoting women participation. Our women back here in Zambia, I think even elsewhere, women are being undermined. Hence, their participation in key leadership roles is being compromised, because no one would want to sit in a place where you don't feel comfortable. And the other thing which is also affecting the issue of women participation in key leadership roles or politics or elections is the issue of culture, in the sense that from childhood to growing up, we are taught to say, no, you are a lady, you're supposed to be cooking, you're supposed to be playing with pots, you don't have to play with toy cars. So this is a system that has been there from the grassroots. So for us to remove this kind of a mindset and build a new revolutionary way that will put women in the front line, I think we must stem that from a childhood level. We should start with the children that we grow in our homes, that we have in our homes, by teaching them to be leaders as well. Because in the case where I'm a child and I'm taught to just be in the home or save my man, my husband, and as my husband being the king or the head of a house and I'm the tail, I think that really taunts somebody's mentality to coming out on the light and say, okay, I also want to be a leader or a ring or to rule or be part of the or even be a president someday. I also have aspirations, I should make mention, to be Zambia's president in the next, I don't know how many years to come, but I'm still pushing. I'm in the level of learning, and I'm really appreciating the move that the Socialist Party out there in the Socialist Party of Zambia has taken. I must also make mention that in order for the Socialist Party to promote women, it has also brought in the issue of a literacy campaign. This is a campaign which is there to teach people how to read and write, and it is teaching our women how to read and write, and also learn to participate during the time of voting, so that they're not distracted or so that they do not, so that they know what they're voting for or what they're putting themselves into during elections. We also take part in educating them about our ideology and also about politics as well, and how they can stand there, drag their morale, and be an inspiration to other young women as well. Yes, and I think it's high time that Zambia should realize that it's only the Socialist Party that has been able to acknowledge the strength of a woman. And the way forward for Africa is socialism. Yes, comrade. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Comrade Nancy, for that input. Comrade, you touched on such important points in terms of mentioning how women are still undermined within politics, even when they are in key political positions. It seems that it's only there for an identity and not really involving women in decision making. You've also touched on such an important point in terms of a political culture which then associates women with specific roles and does not see women as people who should be making decisions, people who should be challenging men in certain boardrooms, in certain conferences, in certain corridors. And I think it's this political culture that you've mentioned, especially within the political system within the region. I know in Southern Africa, it's still a big challenge, of having women well represented and making decisions within the region. Thank you so much for that, Comrade Nancy. Those very important points. Comrade Ashlyn, we are glad that you are still with us, Comrade. We are just going to shift then to you in terms of just touching on some of the challenges that women are facing within your region, within your country. What are the challenges, especially young women in politics? What are some of the challenges that have come up more consistently on your side, Comrade?
Thanks, comrade. I'll say that politics for the longest time has been a male domain. And, even after the universal declarations and these international conferences, which are pro-bourgeoisie, that actually agitated for the gender equality kind of campaigns, bringing about women in leadership. I think women still are under the confines of, prejudice and social oppression, because even Marxism recognizes that as long as we are in the capitalist system, women oppression will continue, because the only way we can liberate ourselves from this oppressive system is also through the liberation of the women. And when we talk about the women, to be specific, is the working class women, because also women are an heterogeneous group, or rather entity, because looking at the women from the bourgeoisie class and those from the working class, we have antagonistic kind of interest, because we can't say that a win for a woman in the rich class is a win for all women, but we have to consider that the bourgeoisie women even right now are coming up with this, we call them carpet and plastic kind of feminist agenda in order to minimize the struggles of the working class women, and they're popularly using the media as a weapon to weaken and water down the struggles of the working women. So in regards to the question of some of the challenges that we are facing as young women in politics, I'd say the first one is we have to recognize, in as much as we are having more progressive political parties and social movements coming in to more defiantly fight for we call it people's feminist. In most of the African political bureaucracies, we still have the so-called neo-patrimonialistic tendencies, whereby I think I've said the name well, neo-patrimonialistic kind of tendencies, where women had denied certain kind of positions in government. In as much as Kenya, the 2010 Kenyan Constitution recognizes that we have currently in Parliament the women representatives, but they are there as flower girls. They are not there to push for laws which are pro-poor, which are pro-people, but they are there to just silence the voice of the women. They know if they see around 47 women in parliament representing all the 47 counties, and no woman will go in the streets and start inciting other women to say, we want women in leadership. So even as we are celebrating maybe the changes and transitioning in society in terms of giving more opportunities to women, there is great silencing of the voices of the poor women. And also, if you come in as a woman from a left, or rather a Marxist-Leninist organization, also, there is a lot of, I'll call it, there is a lot of demeaning from other women from these other political parties, because they say that communists look at society upside down, because what we say is totally different from what they are used to, because they're there to maintain the privileges of the rich and also the status quo that they enjoy as the rich women. But when you come in and say, this is the principle of Marxism and this is how we recognize society, and bring in the aspect of class war, the class struggle, and strongly condemn class conciliatory kind of agendas, then you become the enemy among the majority. So that is another issue. And also, I think also within our organization, women are so few, because a lot of women are afraid of joining the leftist organization. There is a lot of state infiltration and threats into the left organization. So when a woman is given a chance, to talk about the Marxist-Leninist kind of perspective, to them there is a lot of fear and there is a lot of, setback in terms of, engaging in such politics. In Kenya, mostly they refer to it as, these should be underground politics. We should not come up strongly and talk about these issues, when you bring about how capitalist system is bringing about sexual oppression of women. These are issues that should be talked underground, not brought out to light and such like. So I'd say those are some of the, challenges that you face in politics, and especially being in a leftist organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, comrades. Thank you so much, leadership. I cannot say anything better than you have. I cannot articulate anything that you have just said better than you have. Comrades, these are the things that we want to understand and know as Marxists, as communists on the left, as to what exactly are we dealing with when it comes to the challenges that we faced with organizationally, So thank you again, comrades, for your input. Thank you for your insight. And just thank you again for making time to be with us today, comrades. Comrades, in just closing, I will say there is no better cause like building the organization of a working class and making sure that we mobilize the working class as a class for itself. This is key in intensifying working class hegemony at every corner of the continent, creating a single voice and connecting our struggles starting from a grassroots level all the way through to an international level. Comrade, Africa is a young continent, rich in history, rich in culture, and Africa must take a leading role in redefining what humanity means today. The lesson and gift that Africa can hand to the world is the gift of humanity and what that means. Comrades, in the words of Amilcar Cabral, I will say, we base our struggle on the concrete realities of our country, yet we appreciate the experiences and achievements of other peoples, and we study them. But revolution and national liberation is like a dress, which must fit each individual's body. Naturally, there are certain general or universal laws, even scientific laws for any condition, but the liberation struggle has to be developed according to the specific conditions of each country. Leadership, Comrade Nancy, Comrade Ashlyn, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you again for your time. And hopefully we get to continue with such conversations in the future. Thank you so much, comrades.